One of Hollywood's last living links to its golden age has gone silent. Under the calm glow of Santa Monica's coastline, June Lockhart, whose face once defined warmth, courage, and grace, took her final bow at 100 years old. For millions who grew up watching Lassie or Lost in Space, it feels like a chapter of America's soul just closed. But June was never just another actress. She was a bridge between centuries, born into black and white cinema and reborn again in the era of streaming. The same woman who soothed audiences in the 1950s would later lend her voice to a Netflix reboot, quietly proving that legacy doesn't fade with time. It evolves. Yet behind that calm smile and perfect TV mother image lived someone far more daring, far more unpredictable than anyone ever realized. She could comfort a nation on screen, and then climb into a hot air balloon or drive an army tank for fun. The world remembers her for safety and stability. But tonight, we're going to remember her for something else entirely. The rebel heart that beat beneath Hollywood's softest smile. Because June Lockhart's story isn't just about television history, it's about how one woman rewrote what it meant to live, love, and keep dreaming for a full century. And as we look back at her remarkable journey, we'll find out how she transformed from Hollywood's gentle matriarch into its quiet revolutionary. June Lockhart's story didn't begin with fame. It began with footlights. She was born in New York City in 1925 to two working actors, Jean and Kathleen Lockhart. People who didn't just tell stories, they lived inside them. While most children fell asleep to fairy tales, June drifted off to the sound of her parents rehearsing lines beneath the soft hiss of a stage lamp. Her childhood smelled of grease paint and velvet curtains. Her lullabies were curtain calls. By the time she was 8, she wasn't just watching from the wings. She was on stage herself, performing in the Metropolitan Opera's Peter Ibbotson. Even then, there was something uncanny about her presence. A calm confidence that made audiences believe she'd been doing this her whole life. Then came 1938. MGM was filming A Christmas Carol, and for one perfect moment, destiny called the entire Lockhart family to the same set. Her father played Bob Cratchit, her mother, Mrs. Cratchit, and tiny June, with bright eyes and boundless wonder, played one of their daughters. It wasn't just a film, it was a family portrait that would outlive them all. She used to laugh about her first line. I know, sausages. A line so ordinary it became extraordinary. Every Christmas, when they watched the film together, someone would whisper it, and the whole room would erupt in laughter. It became their ritual, a reminder that success had started not with red carpets, but with family and joy. That moment defined her more than any award ever could. It proved that acting wasn't something she learned. It was something she inherited. A pulse that ran straight through her bloodline. And by the time most kids were still learning to read, June Lockhart was already reading scripts under studio lights, a second-generation star being quietly shaped for a lifetime in front of the world. But Hollywood was changing fast, and the little girl with the sausage line was about to grow into one of its most graceful fighters. By her teenage years, June Lockhart was no longer the little girl from A Christmas Carol. She was walking among giants. On film sets, she shared coffee breaks with Bette Davis and crossed sound stages where Gary Cooper rehearsed his lines. It wasn't just exposure, it was education. Every glance, every whisper between takes, became another page in her unwritten masterclass on acting. And while other young performers were still trying to find their footing, June was already moving with the poise of someone twice her age. Her name quietly appeared in credits beside Hollywood legends. Sergeant York, All This and Heaven 2, She-Wolf of London, Meet Me in St. Louis. Each film added another layer to her growing mystique. Directors called her effortless, but that was just the illusion she built through obsession. Behind every serene performance were endless hours of rehearsal, rewrites, and quiet self-critique. June didn't chase fame. She chased mastery. To her, acting wasn't glamour. It was craftsmanship. Then came 1947, the year everything changed. Broadway, For Love or Money. Night after night, she stood beneath the lights of the Plymouth Theatre, steady and fearless, her voice filling the room with the kind of conviction that only comes from someone who's lived every line. When the curtain fell, the applause didn't stop. That season, June Lockhart won the Tony Award for Outstanding Performance by a Newcomer, a moment that officially transformed her from a child actor into a serious artist. But June never let it go to her head. "I like it all," she told a reporter years later. "But theater? That's the hardest. It's night after night after night." It wasn't false modesty. It was truth, the kind that only comes from someone who respects the work more than the applause. She'd already conquered film and stage before most actors her age had even found an agent. But June wasn't done climbing. A new world was about to arrive, one that would beam her face into millions of living rooms and make her a household name. Because the next stage of her life wouldn't just make her famous, it would make her family to an entire generation. When the golden age of film gave way to the glowing age of television, most movie stars hesitated. Not June Lockhart. She stepped straight into it, as if she'd been waiting her whole life for that small screen to find her. In 1958, she joined Lassie as Ruth Martin, the gentle, steady mother who could calm chaos with a single look. Week after week, she became a familiar presence in millions of American homes. Long before comfort TV had a name, she embodied it. Her voice was soft, her strength quiet, and her decency unshakable. In an era defined by post-war uncertainty, June Lockhart became something rare, a symbol of safety. For 6 years she anchored the show's heart, earning 2 Emmy nominations and the kind of affection no trophy could match. Her bond with her young co-star John Provost, who played Timmy, was real, not scripted. Decades later, he said, "My own mother might forget my birthday, but June never did." It wasn't just a line, it was the truth. She didn't just play a mother. She was one, to everyone who worked with her, to everyone who watched her. But June never stayed in one role for long. When Lassie ended, she didn't cling to nostalgia or typecasting. Instead, she reinvented motherhood altogether. In 1965, she traded the farmhouse for a spaceship and became Maureen Robinson in Lost in Space. One moment she was baking pies in the heartland. The next, she was steering her family through meteor fields. The transition wasn't just career daring. It was cultural evolution. She showed that mothers could be explorers, scientists, and leaders long before the world called that empowerment. And she did it all with her signature grace and humor. Years later, she laughed, "I did Lassie for 6 years, and no one ever told me it made them want to be a farmer. But Lost in Space? People tell me it made them want to be scientists." It was the kind of self-aware wit that defined her. Timeless, warm, and quietly radical. By the mid-1960s, June Lockhart wasn't just America's mother. She was its conscience, the voice that reminded us that strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply shows up every week and keeps the family and the world from falling apart. But when the cameras stopped rolling, the woman behind that calm smile was anything but ordinary, and her next act would prove she was just getting started. When the 1960s faded and the golden glow of network television began to dim, most actors from June Lockhart's era quietly disappeared. But not her. June never stopped moving. From the 1970s through the 1990s, she became one of the most quietly prolific performers in Hollywood. Petticoat Junction, Marcus Welby, M.D., Magnum P.I., Knots Landing, Murder, She Wrote, Full House, Grey's Anatomy, Babylon 5, more than 150 film and television credits. A resume so long it could fill an entire bookshelf. Yet she never saw herself as royalty. Every new appearance wasn't about prestige, it was about play. "I never wanted to be worshipped," she once said. "I just wanted to keep working." That humility kept her timeless in an industry obsessed with reinvention. In 1995, at 70, she surprised everyone again with a cameo on Roseanne, playing Leon's sharp-tongued mother. For many actors, it was a throwaway part. For June, it was a chance to break her own mold, to be unpredictable one more time. She later called it the highlight of my career. because that was the secret of June Lockhart. She wasn't content with being remembered as America's gentle matriarch. Off-screen, she was pure electricity. She loved rock and roll. She laughed loud, drove faster than her agents wanted, and said yes to adventure the way most people say yes to breathing. She rode in army tanks just for the thrill of it. She soared in hot air balloons and even tried glider flying. No engines, just air and courage. It wasn't a stunt. It was who she was. A woman who refused to live life on autopilot. And perhaps the biggest surprise of all, her favorite show wasn't Lassie or Lost in Space. It was Ren and Stimpy. That wild, absurd cartoon about a cat and a chihuahua made her laugh until she cried. Imagine that. Hollywood's most wholesome TV mom cracking up at the most chaotic show on air. That was June Lockhart in a single frame. Graceful, unpredictable, and infinitely alive. She didn't just survive Hollywood's decades of change. She danced through them. But her curiosity wasn't limited to television sets or stage lights. The same wonder that made her reach for the stars on screen would soon lead her to the real ones, in the skies above. By the time most stars faded into reruns, June Lockhart had already secured her place in the heavens. Literally. In 1960, she was honored with not one but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. One for film, one for television, both dedicated on the same day. Few in history can claim that kind of double legacy. To everyone else, it was the ultimate tribute to a lifetime of work. To June, it was simply another reminder to keep looking forward. And where she looked next wasn't toward another role. It was toward the stars themselves. Her fascination with space didn't end when Lost in Space went off the air. If anything, it deepened. Beginning in the 1970s, she began working closely with NASA, giving talks, touring research centers, and meeting the real explorers who lived the stories she once pretended to tell. She saw astronauts not as distant heroes, but as kindred spirits, dreamers, risk-takers, storytellers in their own right. For decades, she lent her voice, her warmth, and her imagination to a generation of scientists and engineers who had grown up watching her guide the Robinson family through the unknown. And then, in 2014, the organization she'd loved for 40 years honored her back, presenting her with the NASA Exceptional Public Achievement Medal. No other actress in history had received it. I've been to 2 shuttle launches and worked with NASA since the 1970s, she told a reporter, so I'm absolutely thrilled by this recognition. For her, it wasn't about prestige. It was about passion. The same curiosity that carried her from Lassie's farmland to intergalactic adventure had now bridged the gap between fiction and real world. Discovery, June Lockhart had become what few actors ever do, a symbol of imagination, turned into action. Her make-believe voyages helped inspire the people who would one day go there for real. She blurred the line between performance and purpose, proving that a story told well can still change the way people see the world and the universe beyond it. But while she reached for the stars above, her curiosity never stopped at the edge of the sky. It kept pulling her back to Earth, to people, to politics, to the human stories that shaped her just as much as Hollywood ever did. For a woman who spent her life in the spotlight, June Lockhart was never content to simply perform. She wanted to understand. Behind that calm screen presence lived a mind that never stopped asking questions. About people, about power, about the strange machinery of the world around her. Her curiosity reached far beyond scripts and cameras. It reached into history, science, and politics. In 1948, she met President Harry Truman. Most actors might have asked for a photo, a handshake, maybe a story to tell at parties. But June wasn't most actors. She looked the President of the United States in the eye and asked, "What's it like to sit in the Oval Office?" Truman smiled, half amused, half weary, and said, "It's just like being in jail." That answer stuck with her for the rest of her life. Not because it was cynical, but because it was honest. It peeled back the image of power and revealed the person underneath. And from that moment on, June was hooked. Not on politics as spectacle, but on the truth behind it. That fascination grew into something extraordinary. During the Eisenhower administration, Press Secretary Jim Haggerty gave her something no other Hollywood actress had ever received: a lifetime press pass. With it, June Lockhart attended briefings in Washington, D.C., and California for nearly 50 years. Picture it. The same woman who once played America's most trusted mother, now sitting quietly in the back row of a press room, jotting down notes while presidents spoke. While others chased headlines, she studied them. Journalists loved her, not because she was famous, but because she respected the work. Her questions were sharp, her tone always thoughtful. She didn't come to be seen, she came to learn. That quick intellect also made her a favorite on celebrity quiz shows, where her encyclopedic memory stunned contestants who mistook her gentle demeanor for naivety. They'd smile politely at the beginning and stare in disbelief at the scoreboard by the end. June Lockhart wasn't just an actress who played smart women. She was one. Grounded, sharp, endlessly curious. A living reminder that intelligence never goes out of style. And when the spotlight finally dimmed, it wasn't the applause that followed her. It was the respect she'd earned. Quietly, one thoughtful question at a time. On a quiet October night in Santa Monica, under the same coastal glow that had watched her rise to fame a lifetime ago, June Lockhart's story came gently to a close. She was 100 years old. Her daughter and granddaughter held her hands as she drifted peacefully away. The same hands that once held stage scripts, guided television families, and comforted millions of strangers through a flickering screen. There was no grand announcement, no spectacle, just the calm grace that had defined her life. Her family asked that, instead of flowers, fans honor her memory through kindness, by donating to the causes she cherished most. The Actors Fund, ProPublica, and International Hearing Dog, Inc. Creativity, truth, and compassion. The very pillars she'd lived by. Her career had lasted nearly as long as television itself. From black and white reels to streaming screens, June Lockhart wasn't just present for every chapter. She connected them. She reminded generations that decency never goes out of style, that strength can be quiet, and that curiosity is the spark that keeps us human. To those who grew up watching her, she was safety. To those who discovered her later, she was legacy. And to everyone, she was proof that you don't have to chase relevance when you are the standard by which it's measured. Even now, her spirit lingers, in the glow of old TV sets playing Lassie reruns, in the hum of rockets she helped inspire, and in every artist who still believes that stories, at their best, can hold humanity together. June Lockhart didn't just act through eras. She united them, a bridge between what was and what will always be remembered. So before this story fades to black, take a moment to remember your own first memory of seeing her on screen. Was it a motherly smile, a calm word, a laugh that made you feel at home? Share it in the comments below. And if her legacy still moves you, make sure you're subscribed. Because the legends who built Hollywood's heart deserve to be remembered, one unforgettable story at a time.